Ford problems. Will you be affected? So, just joining the show. Figured we'd let Marie start one for once. Hopefully the camera setup is good. We're trying a new setup for the live. Much wider lens, but hopefully better quality so we can see what's going on that TV. And if this doesn't work, well, we will change the background to either a bigger TV or just a whole new system. But let's talk about the real deal. Put the pedal to the metal. A little bit of, actually a whole lot of don't be fooled. The don't be fooled, that's when sort of the negative, the BS busting is on the side. You know, it benefits Ford. Well, there'll be some of this evening. I won't necessarily, can't really say it's good news for Ford. Actually, two pieces of not so great news for Ford, but we'll try to work through that. We're here for everyone. Marie's just getting the show set up on her phone on the side so she can see what the questions that are being asked. So thank you very much for joining us. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of Maverick talk. We're going to be talking about Bronco and really Ford in general. Going to be talking about the 3.5 liter EcoBoost engine. That's the 6-cylinder twin turbo that's in the F-150 that we love. I'd love to see that come to the Bronco one day, but for now it's not in the plans. But let's just put the pedal to the metal. We've got a lot to talk about tonight, and we want to get it all in within about 30 minutes. So we gotta jump right in. So hopefully everyone's in the show. Say hi, everyone. Let everyone know that you're here. I hope you have good news. Someone hopefully in the community has good news tonight to share about getting their Maverick, because we'll start with the least fun news of all. Marie, this is a problem for you. And
I'm afraid about what you will say.
Well, you put in your Maverick order last July. Not last July, sorry.
The other one before.
Yeah, July 2021. So I've been getting comments from different viewers. You know, we're all part of the community. We're all here to help, and that's the attitude I love having in regards to sharing information, sharing intel. And we've had a few users actually share some news that's a little disturbing. So let's just go straight to one right here. We've got Da Bomb Diggity 88. We also had a few other people share basically the same information. So he wrote, just an interesting update, thought I'd share. Pretty sure I got scheduled for week 1 of 2023 Maverick builds, December 5th. EcoBoost, Lariat, new blue color, tech package, 360, and he's not a holdover. He says, and I'm not a holdover from 2022. So it means a carryover, a holdover, both work. So there's no priority for rollover builds at all. Well, yes and no. And you know, I read this and I said, okay, it's an EcoBoost. I'm not seeing the tech. Oh yeah, you got the tech package there. So in the 360, yes and no. And that depends whether you're at a dealer that knows what's going on. And if the dealer's just, you know, they could be lost in space, some space cadets out there. But a good dealer is going to take all the carryovers. Ford sent an email, couple emails. Ford made this really clear. They put it also in the scheduling notes. They said your carryovers. So that's Marie, you know, last summer. She's one of the worst cases. But let's say you're a carryover from before the sold out deadlines. So that means you're a carryover if you had your hybrid order in before November 15th. And you had your EcoBoost order in before, if I recall, it's January 27th, 2022. Maybe it was the 29th, but I'm thinking the 27th. So in those cases, you're a carryover and the dealer is supposed to put a 10, 11, or let's say Ford said 10, give them a priority 10 or 11. And then Ford often is putting those priority 1 or 2, like my Lightning. I was supposed to be a 2022. I chose to let people go ahead of me because I had already gotten a Bronco for each of us. And I want to be fair, you know. I don't want to take all the good luck that's out there, because then I'll have to face a whole lot of bad luck, like everything I've been breaking this week. So I guess I was due for some bad luck, but good dealers will priority code you 10 or 11. Ford is probably going to switch that to a 1 or a 2. And when you're a 1, you can be scheduled at any time, even when it's not, your model's not being scheduled that week. So that's the news we have for you. Marie, how does that make you feel?
It's always the same. I guess for me, it doesn't change my emotions about that. So I knew I wasn't built sooner. So yeah, for me, it doesn't make a difference. I just know I need to wait more.
Yeah, it's sad, but by the time you get your Maverick, you might have waited 18 months, and it's sad for dealers that don't really know and don't follow and don't read properly, because it is kind of sad. Well, it's very frustrating if a dealer takes a carryover. You know, you made your deadline November 15th, 2021 for a hybrid, or the 2022 January 27th for an EcoBoost. You made your deadline, and if they don't prioritize, if they don't give you the right priority code, well, then you're being treated like one of the new orders. Or worse, if they priority code you 19 and put a new order lower, well, the system can still pick you up, but there are chances that you'll get built before. Now, of course, constraints are still all part of this. And the bomb diggity brought me this news, but I had one other that was a hybrid, and I can't remember what the third one is. I've got that saved over, and I don't want to get into reading everyone's quotes, but basically the information that we provide each other as a community is very helpful. So yes, at some dealers, there is no priority for carryovers, but I'd say at the majority of dealers, there will be. Yours, the good news is you are coded a priority 10. So you're not going to be affected by that kind of nonsense. However, now, this is not so much on Ford's part, but just general how things work. You know, we had to wait a long time for our drone to come in because we wanted one with avoidance capabilities, so it was more high tech. But basically, if someone orders up, a new orderer takes, let's say, an XL hybrid and doesn't add mud flaps, a bed liner, they take an XLT and they don't add Lariat, the luxury package, could definitely be built before yours. We'll find out. We'll find out.
Yeah, that's sad, but priority 10 is not that bad, so I'm fine with that. That's the first great news since a long time. But we were speaking about that just this weekend in the car. I was saying, yeah, for sure, Ford wants to build as much as Maverick as they can.
Yeah.
So they took the EcoBoost because it doesn't have that much microchips as an hybrid. They won't take the Lux package first too to build because it's more microchip. And at the same time, I was like, yeah, I understand they want to build more and more Maverick to make sure more customers are happy because they have their car. But at the same time, when you wait so long, I'm questioning a little bit that nonsense, because yes, you will build more Mavericks, you will sell more people will be happy, more customer. But at the same time, if I wait that much longer and I don't know if I will be built, if people will pass before me, I'm like, yeah, you should just do first person arrive, first person to have a Maverick. So if it takes more microchips, you just need to do your order before me. So too late for you, sorry. I took all the microchip.
I'm happy you share that, because your thought process is spot on. You got to keep the workers working. You want to build as many as possible to make as many people as happy as possible. Really, that's sort of the whole idea behind utilitarian ethics, utilitarianism. It's a system of ethics that says, do the actions that create the greatest amount of good and happiness for the greatest amount of people. But, I've been also getting a lot of comments in the last 2 weeks of, I got tired of waiting for my Maverick, I canceled. So there is going to be some of that. And I guess this is the topic of the show because, lately I've been getting I'm going to cancel or I have canceled. And that's why I want to talk about, 4 problems. Will you be affected? Because this is the one topic where, you could be affected. And, very legit. I understand if people cancel. I still think that it's worth the wait. We've driven it, so that does change our opinion greatly. And a lot of your patience is because you've driven it not just under regular conditions. You did it in a snowstorm. You did it while towing. And everything was...
the worst condition you could have here.
And it wasn't just... at the price of the Maverick, you expect the vehicle to be... You hope it's going to be A-okay. You hope it's going to be a pass. It's going to pass, 5... 6 out of 10. But the thing is it's really great. We really, really enjoyed it. So now to the other side of things, the complete opposite. There's going to be a lot of problems that are, created by, you could say, by people wanting attention, by forums, by people, and when I say wanting attention, that's not fair. Sometimes it's human that, you're frustrated by something and then you talk about it and then you learn afterwards, hey, it wasn't that big of a deal. And hey, I did it recently. I did it just yesterday. So just yesterday, if you've seen my video, I wrote that the title is for the thumbnail is very annoyed. Now, hopefully you can still see a bit of that on the screen back there. If not, well, the thumbnail's out there on YouTube. And we do these lives every Thursday. So please don't forget, do like and subscribe. Hit the bell notification to not miss any of this. But yeah, we were annoyed. But we weren't actually annoyed with Ford. I won't get into all of it because we did a video on that. But here are the things you could say we've been annoyed with Ford. But we generally always try to, within the same video, tell the whole story. And at the end of this video, I was saying, well, I'll keep you all updated. Well, here's the update. It's already resolved. But, you could say our problems at Ford lately have been Bronco soft top. Two ways, really. It's the back, where the back window wraps around and it's got these plastic holders. Well, it started to come off. One side because someone tried to get in, and the other side probably just because of we're driving often with the top at a third open, or really it's almost 3/4 open, and it puts a lot of wind pressure on the back window. And I'll get to what they did to correct that. But basically, our problems at Ford, if we only focused on the negative because, we want more likes, more subscribes, more money. We're not doing this for the money.
More attention.
More attention, I guess. But let's just cover what we've had for problems. We'd only talk problems because we've had Bronco soft top. We had that problem. Plus, when you fold it back, there's this little safety warning saying, don't leave your fingers here. It'll pinch. Well, that actually can potentially ruin your roof. And I'll talk about solutions. We've got the Raptor auto start stop that just stayed stopped. You rolled down a hill because of it. We had limp mode for the Bronco, and that's David and Kelly over at All Terrain Nation. They pulled out, they saved, they helped out good people. They helped out a Bronco that fell into limp mode. And we'll talk about that in this video as well. We've had the Bronco hardtop issues, which I've covered over the last year and a half. We've had Maverick gas tanks leaking. We've had Maverick hybrids that won't start. We have, the 3.5 liter EcoBoost Raptor being described, just all of it, as horrifically unreliable by, I want to get the company right because I don't want to misquote anyone. So if you all will bear with me just one moment. I've got the slide up, but on the TV I'm worried you won't see it all that well. I believe it's Motor Junkie, but I don't want to get anyone wrong here. So let's just scroll over here. Sorry for the little delay here. Yeah, Motor Junkie. So I'll just show that over here on my phone. You've got Motor Junkie here, and right on the cover, they've got the Raptor. We have a Raptor, so we can actually talk about that from experience. And of course, one person's experience is not good enough to describe the general experience. But in this article, they just say the Raptor is really unreliable. Avoid all of them. So, if you follow forums and you follow people that want to say negative things for clicks, and I have no respect for this in this case because they don't actually go on to describe. They just say the problem is with the timing chain. End of story. They also talk about the Tundra being really unreliable. They talk about the Toyota T100 being unreliable, and even the Tacoma being really unreliable and not always giving great examples. And the thumbnail, the cover is the Raptor, and it's actually the 20th out of 20 is 20th. You'd think you'd go with your worst one as the thumbnail, but that wouldn't have gotten anyone to click on it. So things that bother me, not being precise. I try to be as precise as possible. But let's go back and talk about all of this and what Ford is actually doing to help resolve one major issue that the automobile industry has, and that falls under style. Because on this Motor Junkie unreliable pickup trucks, surprisingly, they had a lot of trucks that just said, don't buy it because they were never popular because of the styling, which it's like your title is unreliable pickup trucks. Why do you have several vehicles on the list for being, quote unquote, in your opinion, basically ugly, to paraphrase not so well, but to paraphrase phrase, it's not the greatest word, but yeah, ugly could be definitely described it. So let's start from the top. First of all, I'm really happy last night in the premiere for The Very Annoyed, we had John, and John mentioned that there's actually a bulletin for our problem, and there is. And I looked into it today, and the back window on the soft tops that wrap around, and then they have these tiny little plastic clips that aren't very thick, and you said Ford should make them better. You know,
or we don't know why they make them like that. Maybe there's a reason.
it's the company providing that soft top, because I don't think Ford makes that soft top, but Ford does offer. Our Bronco is going to get those, basically they're like rivets. We're going to get them in metal. So we're going to have metal rivets. That is going to be indestructible. So fantastic. It's not going to cost us anything. And they're not asking. They're not asking, hey, did one side get broken into? They're like, no, we have a bulletin for that. We'll take care of you. So very cool, very good news. I'm no longer very annoyed. And I was annoyed at the thievery and at myself for not installing cameras on the house.
And you know what? At first we were wondering if it was the wind that removed a part of the window. But today it was a lot of wind this at noon when I came from the work to the house. It was horrible. The windows were shaking and with the wind, but they won't remove themselves from the
and tonight
the slab,
and our side that we fixed with the glue gun isn't fixed very well. That glue gun, like if I pulled at hard enough, I could tell right off it was starting to stretch, and I could easily rip it off myself. And
so I tested today with the wind. It
violent wind.
Violent. Yeah, we doesn't have that much wind normally, and all the window stays there. So yeah, it was really a person who tried to break in the car for sure.
Yeah. And you know what? There's a bulletin out there for it. Now for the second problem with the soft top. When you fold back your top like we have in the video here, so it's the easiest way, 2 clips, push back, done deal. Well, the little label that says, don't put your fingers here, it'll pinch. So annoyed that there's a label for that. We're overprotected at times in society. Our mayor is turning a 4-lane major road into a 2-lane road so that there's a sidewalk and a bike path. We live in Canada. It's the stupidest idea ever. 6 months of the year, if you bike, you're either going to break your neck because you slide off or freeze to death because it takes a long time to get anywhere in Canada because, well, we don't have much of anything going on. Just a joke, Canada. Just a joke. Canada's not a sensitive country and doesn't get all upset about being teased. But anyways, frustrating. So frustrating with the overprotection stuff and frustrating with fake solutions that go along with real problems. In Canada, we live in a neighborhood actually. Almost everyone has a family, and you can't strap your kids to your pedal bike and bring them to the daycare across town. But anyways, our daycare, I'm getting my coat eaten on the side here. Real sorry for the interruption. Lily's being trouble, but for the soft top where you fold back, it does wear, and eventually if it does wear through, there is a service bulletin. The solution is you get a new top. So huge applause for Ford. It's nice when problems do get fixed. Now, limp mode on the Bronco. Yeah, I recommend that you watch All Terrain Nation. They covered it in their by now, maybe their second most recent video. They covered their towing experience where they helped out and towed a vehicle. It went into limp mode. And David goes on to say that quite possibly, because they know another Bronco that it kind of went into a limp mode. They're on an obstacle. And what happened? They brought it to the dealer, and not the one they just recently towed, but the other one, it was a programming issue, which is, does touch home. I think it could very well be possible that that'll be the solution, because what happened when I was on an obstacle and I was like, oh, I'm in 4A, I should be in 4 low, it'll help me out. Put it in 4 low. Well, for about 40 minutes, I was stuck. I tried about 40 times to take it out. I followed the instructions, put it in neutral, drove a few feet. It was stuck in 4 low. So I drove back home at about 30 kilometers an hour. That wasn't fun. Had some old friends in the vehicle with me, some buddies who are lawyers, and they're like kind of in a hurry to get back on the road. So anyways, that wasn't fun. But in the end, we fixed it after turning it off and leaving it in the yard for a few hours. played around with it 4 or 5 more times, finally went out of that mode. But then later on, about a month and a half later, our front transfer case was partially engaged. And what happened? You let me know, hey, when I turn the wheel at low speeds, the vehicle
When I
seems to
was
be
parking,
jumping.
Yeah, but jumping, and at the same time, it's like the diff was how can I say
Blocked.
that? Stuck like blocked like that. So
Programming fixed it. So another thing,
electronical things.
As much as you might go on forums, and whether you're on forums or you're watching certain videos, sometimes it can seem like everything's going wrong. And I can tell you, the positive that I want to share today is there's a lot of solutions to a lot of the problems. And of course, when we see something online, naturally, it's just natural to generalize. If you see Motor Junkie saying, I believe the name, saying that avoid the Raptor at all costs because of timing chain, well, you're going to tend to believe it. And I'll get to that in just a moment. But, the Maverick gas tank leaking, quickly Ford found out that was because certain ones during bedliner installation, it happened. So they fixed that right up. They switched out the gas tanks. They didn't just try to say, it's customers, mistreating the vehicle. And there's a bit of that in the automobile industry, when the Porsche, I think it was the 993. Anyways, the 1999 911 Porsche came out. There were quite a few blown engines, and they definitely were trying to blame those on customer misuse. So the 3.5 liter EcoBoost, they say the Raptor. They don't, really specify. They just say all Raptors. But back then, all Raptors were the 3.5 liter EcoBoost. And you look into it, they're basically saying that avoid them because a ton of them have timing chain problems that'll break, several times in the life of the motor, and that it can be quite costly. Yes, but here's the real story to all of that. First of all, by generation 2, it was resolved. These timing chains were stretching out and breaking because of heavy, excessive carbon buildup, which is usually caused by a lot of idling. Now, we had a Gen 1, we had a 2011 EcoBoost engine, and we had 300,000 kilometers. M. Peugeot can tell us if he's here tonight in the live. Hello, if you are. He'll tell you about his very high mileage EcoBoost. And I think recently watching, I believe it was either TFL or Tim from SUV and Truck Talk. I really like that show, but I was having trouble with the name. Shame on me, I'm bad with names. But one of those two shows that I follow, they're actually showing a lot of high mileage EcoBoost engines. That's because a lot of them can get to high mileage because the excessive carbon buildup is from excessive idling. So first of all, if you have a Gen 1 3.5 liter EcoBoost, avoid excessive idling. Also, if your dealership tells you you need to do some maintenance to remove that carbon, do it. If it gets really bad, they do what's called, they conduct a walnut blasting. But let's say, even if it costs you, let's say $1,000 or $1,200, if it saves your engine, awesome. Well, because it is quite costly if your timing chain does go. But by Gen 2, that was resolved because they added port injection to the direct injection, which the result of that is no more carbon buildup. Because basically when you start up the vehicle at first, when the engine's cool, before it warms up, that's a time when the carbon can build up, and they'll run it on port injection. So no carbon buildup whatsoever. So Ford does look for solutions. So the soft top, there's a bulletin. We're going to get metal rivets. The fold back, if it goes through the top, you're going to get a new top. So what's going on here? I guess really I just want to share with everyone. I'm happy we're a positive community that shares both the negative and the positive, but that we do try to look for solutions together as a community. That means a lot to me because I think as a vehicle, truck, and car enthusiast, community shouldn't be about, bashing other people, and it shouldn't necessarily be about, laughing at people's mistakes. We all have something to learn. We can all learn together. So,
but at the same time, you know what? He said we shouldn't laugh at people, but if you remember, I guess it was 1 or 2 months ago, he was laughing at the Prius. He said that the drivers are Not all of them, but often they move slow. And you know what? You know where I go with that.
I know what's coming. You're gonna hit me with a truth bomb.
Yeah, I forgot to tell you many lives before that just after he was bashing on the drivers of the Prius, he was passed by a Prius because he was riding too slow with the Bronco. So I was laughing so hard at him, and I need to share that to you tonight because yeah, Johnny now he learns the lesson. No bashing anymore.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And you meant the Prius, the Toyota Prius hybrid. So, but I think Prius is
always.
It's cute. I like how you say it. So I just want to say, but it is nice to laugh as a community. So Maverick Truck Club, I love it when you've got people on there. And I did absolutely want to share who brought this photo. But they bought their yellow Maverick. One. They love their yellow Maverick. And they parked it beside a yellow school bus. So head over to Maverick Truck Club. Check out this article. The guy's got a great sense of humor on his own vehicle. And he's like, you know, and I remember at one point I was calling the Bronco. And then I also mentioned it with the Maverick. I'm like, you know, the yellow one, the school bus yellow one. And I got a few comments being like, it's not school bus yellow. And I'm like, well, park it beside one. I love this guy. He literally did it. So he is A-okay, more than A-okay in my books. So sometimes bad things do happen though. Mm-hmm. And I do want to mention, you know, back to David and Kelly, All Terrain Nation, the vehicle, probably it's a programming thing. I hope it's not a transmission thing. But here's the thing. Sometimes things do happen. And when you off-road, do remember, if you're racing or you're off-roading, your vehicle's not covered while you're racing or off-roading. If it's a programming thing, Ford's going to cover it. But basically, all automobile manufacturers do not cover what you could call excessive abuse. They allow a little bit of abuse. But let's say, you know, you go in and you try to say, you know, I only ever burnt my tires once on my vehicle. Well, you're going to be okay. But if, for example, they open up your transmission and they see all sorts of metal bits all over the place, in here, this is basically, I believe this is the automatic transmission. It's kind of like a clutch. It's supposed to spin. It's jammed. And, you know, you've got all sorts of metal flaking along these plates. One of them is horribly burnt in color. So I'll try to get to the photo of one that's horribly burnt. But one of those discs is like really, really burnt. It's completely changed colors. That's all signs of excessive abuse. So right here you can see really changed the colors there. And then on the back of the vehicle, the back plastic is actually melted. Oops, sorry, Lily is clearly.
It's the dog again.
Yeah, Lily is clearly chewing on the post here. Yeah, if you could pick her up, hon, that'd be great. So hopefully the camera angle isn't too bad. Watch your head. Sorry about that. So basically, if your vehicle has, you know, essentially what you could say proof of not just a bit of wear and tear, but really, really excessive abuse, well, you're not going to be covered. So just remember, be careful how much you race your vehicle. Be careful when you're off-roading. It's, you know, part of the game. It's the dangers that go along with the fun. But if you know, the back of your vehicle's melted because the tires heated up so incredibly much, it can be a little harder to pass certain jobs. Now, talking about certain jobs, I've got a job to do, and that's to keep everyone informed. So I just want to zoom in on this awesome Tremor F250 diesel. Finally, prices are really coming down on the used truck market. So this is a 2020. It's got, you know, the equivalent of about 25,000 miles on it. And it's 91,000 Canadian. And new, if you ordered one up, it's a platinum Tremor. So I'm thinking a 2022 is about 108,000 Canadian. And it's going to be, the 2023s are going to be about another 10,000 Canadian. So, you know, if you figure about 120 rough, and now going for 92, the 92.9, so 93, that's a good amount less. Used prices are really starting to be Interesting. So it's not a coincidence that I bought the F-150 Raptor as a 2019 because I got it for a whole lot less than a new one. So I just wanted to bring everyone's attention to that. I think I've covered, one thing I didn't cover in the show, the Maverick Hybrid that won't start. Just want to say that's actually a solution. It was a battery terminal. Battery terminal gets changed. It does not affect everyone, but if you are affected, it's just a matter of changing the terminal and then everything is hunky-dory. So I'm pretty much, I think we're ready for some...
And people are asking the amount of money that you spoke about the used cars was in Canadian.
Yes, absolutely, in Canadian, because otherwise
Sorry,
if those were
from Canada.
Yeah, I can't, it'd be a little harder for me to talk about the used market, but this is like a non-accidented, clean truck. It's an excellent buy, I'd say right now. Interest rates are high, but you know, I listened to something great about the house market. Basically, it pointed out the fact that now that as soon as the house market prices went up, some people were saying, don't buy a high house. It's a horrible time. And interest rates were still really low. Mm-hmm. Now the house prices are near the same prices, but the interest rates are higher. And they're probably going to stagnate for 2-3 years. And when they do start to go down, it's going to be because the price of the houses won't go down. When interest rates do go down, one thing I know I'm completely positive about, if in 2-3 years, or maybe even 2 years, I'm hoping I'm hoping interest rates start to decrease in a year. We'll find out if it's more 2, maybe even 3. I'd say that's a worst case scenario. But when they do go down, one thing's for sure, the price of houses are gonna go up. So the prices of trucks are down right now, and you could say, well, I'm not going to buy. The interest rates are really high, but that's why the prices of these trucks went down considerably in the last 3-4 months. If we still had really low interest rates, this thing would be selling for probably about 106. So instead of 92.9, it'd be about 106,000. So considerably more expensive. So all I'm trying to say is if you need a truck, don't sit around thinking things are going to be so much better in a year. I think now is actually a pretty darn decent time to buy a truck, especially if you can either put cash up front to be less affected by that interest rate, or maybe your tax return. You just plan every year you're going to put your tax return into that truck, or maybe, you know, I always seem to just work more hours to pay for more stuff.
Have more cars.
Have more cars. And hopefully more power, because the Raptor is getting that exhaust. I've planned it out sometime I've got a buddy who's supposed to, and when I say help me out, I, in this case, probably do pretty much the whole job. I'll film and talk, but I've got someone here who's going to be putting on, I can't wait to hear that Raptor with a proper exhaust, because I find it sad. We've got the 2019 Raptor with the 3.5 liter EcoBoost twin turbo, and I find the new Bronco Raptor with the 3-liter sounds considerably better. I love the sound of the new Raptor. Makes me think that, heck, why didn't I order one? So I just want to go back a few things before, and if there's a question, Hannah, I'm very open to any questions.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, and Peugeot, thank you. You said $91,000 in Canadian is around $67,000 in US. So that's a good comparison. Yeah, thanks for the help.
We've got an awesome community that we share and we help each other. We share information.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, the big problem I had this week is that, yeah, dealerships that don't put the proper priority codes on the Maverick, you are going to be hearing in our community, on the forums, but you know, you are going to hear, and a lot of times people are going to say this is Ford, like Ford's doing it on all of them, that they're passing brand new orders behind people that have waited a really long time like you.
Yeah.
So before you read those things and got really like red in the face and, you know, be like, I want to cancel my Maverick, I wanted to share that with you, honey. And, you know, obviously I want to share it with our community here. It's only bad dealers that are going to, you know, lost dealers, space cadets that are going to incorrectly prioritize these. Mm-hmm. And really, you know, there's this one dealer, I remember at one point, they basically said they put you at the front, not basically, they put an advertisement on, you know, Facebook Marketplace saying if you gave them X number of dollars, it was in the tens of thousands of dollars, they'd put you at the front of the lightning list. And here's an example of how that's totally not Ford's fault if that would have actually came to fruition. It didn't come to fruition because Ford called them and was like, I don't know what they said, but that got removed, and that practice is not going to be going down. That's not going to pass. So I just wanted to point out hard tops. I did mention them. We all know that the first edition hard tops were not always the greatest. Yeah, it's, you know, scaling like a snake, reptilian scaling on some tops. On the folds, there are certain folds that were just, you know, not really finished with product. The new tops I'm seeing, I'm loving the new soft tops, and I'm definitely considering a soft top now because I like the style and I can maybe live with it being a whole lot less practical. But the Bronco's going to have to say bye because I can't afford the Bronco and the Lightning and the Mustang and the Raptor.
Yeah, that's too much.
And right now, Broncos are still worth, used in Canada, they're worth a little bit more than the actual window sticker. So, and I need that money to be able to afford the Lightning. And it's a good time to trade, and I want to have the Lightning to share with the community, share, you know, honest, upfront things about saying, hey, I love this, I don't like this, look at this problem here, but look at this solution. If there is a solution, if there's no solution, I'll say, hey, I'll get back to you if and when there's a solution. But I really want to be able to get my hands dirty with it. And I think I'm ready for after way down the road. I'm definitely gonna want to go back to a Bronco. I hope by then there is a plug-in Bronco because there is talk of a 2.3 liter, serious talk of the 2.3 liter going plug-in. And I did want to mention part of this problems at Ford was about one exec who, after many years, you've probably come across the article. It's just about an exec that they're replacing. They're gone because Ford really does want to make quality priority number one. So what went down with the Bronco at first, that's not acceptable in Ford's eyes. They don't want that going down. What's gone down with even one of the Lincoln models, they weren't all perfect. You get some Lincoln Corsairs, they're perfect. It's one of the best luxury vehicles for the price, one of the best on the market. And then you can have another one that, has a squeak or a rattle, and it's annoying, but the dealer will work to correct it. But, I mentioned this several months ago that Ford made the announcement that they want quality to be priority number one. Well, here's an example of them not just, they're not politicians. They're not just going to say something and not do it. And sometimes that's because you get resistance and you can't pass a law. So I don't want to pick on politicians. They've got their job can be tough when they can have a vision. They can know something that can work. But if they can't convince people to go along with it, well, then it just doesn't happen. But Ford's serious about making quality number one. So I'm sure by the time we get our plug-in Bronco, it's going to be, we're not going to see the little things we saw in our Bronco, like, a cable tie holding our washer fluid or our back tailgate behind the plastic. It wasn't painted. So these things are going to get worked on with time. And, generally in the automobile industry, when you get a year one product, you get the benefit of all the excitement, people taking photos, people asking you questions, you become a star, you become a gas station star, a Walmart, Canadian Tire,
I was at the dump when
Costco.
Somebody asked me if you can take a picture of the Bronco, so yeah. You became a superstar.
At the dump. And the dump isn't the place to socialize. This isn't the corner gas station, the corner store. This isn't the Costco parking lot when you meet up with, or the Tim Hortons Dunkin' Donut car meet. It's the frickin' dump. And, she's got, people just, hey, can I take a photo of your Bronco? So you get the new product, you get a lot of that. That's cool, but you also do generally get the problems. But I just want
to adjust stuff, They
need to adjust stuff. But I do want to point out that ADV production modular hardtop, that thing is looking good with that black plastic. So I hope Ford is, right now they've got a gray plastic. Molded in color just means it's gray all the way through. Great if it gets scratched, because when you're painted and it gets scratched, you're stuck with a different color. You lose your paint. I'm hoping they're going to go with black plastic. That'd just be great if they could incorporate that for 2024. So just sharing some ideas here, and I hope we've got some people. Oh, did Marie get a VIN? That's very nice. Boomik Didia, I'm sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. Not my intention. You can always send us on our Facebook, Johnny's Car Care and Reviews, or on Instagram, Johnny's Car Care and Reviews. If I say your name incorrectly, great place to let me know how to pronounce it properly.
Yeah, please correct us.
And we just had Jason on our Johnny's Car Care and Reviews Facebook share pictures of his Maverick. So that's looking pretty good. We had, so congratulations to Jason on your Mav, but no, Marie does not have a VIN. She's got nothing.
Still waiting.
No build date, and she's a 21 date.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eric Kimbrell is saying it's amazing how the service department and factory get customers taken care of. Sometimes what the factory doesn't get right at first, well, that's what the service department is there for. And they will take care of you. And they're going to take great care of you. The times where it can conflict is, I've seen someone who never did an oil change for 63,000 kilometers on a 5-liter F-150. The 5-liter F-150 generally has, they just don't blow up. So when one does blow up, Ford goes, why? Our top. We got broken into. But because those clips break often enough, Ford isn't going, why did it break? They're not going to look into this. They're just like, yeah, here's your rivets. Have a great day. And it's like, do I deserve that repair? No. Am I going to get it? Yes, because Ford is super fair when they know that something wasn't, built to the level it should have been. So those rivets should have been made of metal, like you were saying. If it's plastic, it needed to be bigger or another material.
Yes, probably because more people, when they removed the top, they had that trouble that they broke a clip. So
Exactly.
Maybe that's why they don't, they do it easily. So, yeah.
So, oh, cool. I pronounced the name almost spot on.
Yeah. So are you ready for questions?
Yeah, I want to read out what Ridgew's saying here. He says he's living in Maine. We want to visit you soon.
Yeah.
We want that to eventually happen. We found out that Mount Washington, we would have contacted you, but we found out Mount Washington, you're not allowed to drive up unless you have a four-wheeler, and we don't want to bring down the four-wheeler, and it's a one-person four-wheeler. We didn't want to be illegal in a whole different country. But he said, I just wanted the extra protection because of our salty roads. Also have a heated garage, and according to Scotty Kilmer, putting your salty brine in a warm garage creates rust. Yes, one of the worst things is a heated garage. If you're going out regularly, if it's like your fun vehicle and you're taking it out once a week, well, great. When you bring it in the garage, hose down the vehicle, no issues. But the daily driver, when you get covered in salt and calcium, because I think it's calcium that's actually the real catalyst to all of this. It's certainly not just humidity. It's the calcium. But anyways, and the salt doesn't help at all. So you put it in the garage, and it's the constant thaw-unthaw that really ruins things. Andy Ackerman, thank you very much for giving us a nice little helping hand. $4.99 for the fur balls. FTW, not sure what that means. Maybe it's like for the winter, because for the winter would make sense because they need that winter clothing. But Marie, you're supposed to buy them winter clothing. You did, but you also bought her like a little ballerina outfit, and that's not how I spend my money. I spend it on car stuff.
Because Winston has t-shirts, so she needs to have dresses.
And Political Beam asked, is the 2023 base Maverick going to increase in price? It already has increased in price from 2022, and throughout the year, it likely will increase price. Now, I'll be very surprised if it doesn't increase price until 2024, and if it does, that price increase will be severe. So I think it probably will make more sense that they increase the price every 3 to 4 months, as I saw with the F-150 pretty much throughout the year. Most Ford models in 2022 did increase every 3 to 4 months. Shelby's Garage, I got to read what you've got to say because I love the name. I love my 2022 Maverick FX4. I purchased off the lot October 30th, 2021. So far, so good after a year of owning it. Thank you very much, Shelby. The internet has a tendency to be unbelievably negative, more so than need be. And journalists and YouTubers, and I sometimes do this by accident, but there's a lot of that going on. So Eric Kimbrell, thank you very, very much. Saying a little hiya. Also, thank you very much. So we're taken care of for the dog clothes here. So thank you very much. And let's see if we've got another question here.
I had one at the beginning from Overlanding for Fun. He was asking, he said his Apple CarPlay stopped working. How can he fix it? Do you know?
Oh, gee whiz, I forgot about our own vehicles, okay? The Mustang, touchscreen stopped working, stuck on the same radio channel, stuck on the same volume. I can't remember if, I think I was able to turn it off, but as soon as I turned it on, same issue. It, as well as one of the Broncos, also the same issue. Got fixed with, we'll talk about that in a moment, but it got fixed with programming. So there's 2 ways to get programming to get your vehicle fixed through programming. 3 ways, my apologies. You can go into the dealership, like our front transfer case, or you can have an over-the-air. So over-the-air, your vehicle, you'll have to have connected the Wi-Fi of the vehicle to, let's say, your house Wi-Fi. So that means putting in the name. And this is one thing I find annoying. You have to write in the name exactly and put in the password. And maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe you can do a search, because just today, come to think of it, it was offering me someone else. But for some reason, it's actually my house internet. It's not strong enough to push outside because it never offers the house internet. It says punch in a name because it's not finding any. And then the final way is that it takes it off your phone. And it'll only take it off your phone if you've connected Ford Pass. Not just that you've made a Ford Pass account. That's half the battle. Once you get your Ford Pass account going, you have to create an account, put in your name, your address. Then it's really important that you activate it. And to activate it, you add your serial number. And then the picture of your vehicle is going to show up. But you're still not done. There's going to be a button that says activate. You'll know that you're 100% Ford Pass ready when you can lock your doors from a distance and start the vehicle from a distance. Now you're activated, and now you can get your vehicle, certain functions of the vehicle, repaired or updated through over-the-air programming. And that's how I believe you're going to get your vehicle fixed if you're having problems with sync. Also, the dealerships have little USB cards, what do we call them? USB. When I'm bad in English, you always seem to have the word, but yeah, USB plug, we'll say. They plug it into your vehicle and they can do it at the dealership. So I just want to go back and say thank you very much, M. Peugeot. Very kind of you. $1 for every 1,000 miles on the Bronco. Comically enough, that's very nice. That's you could say that's paying our adventures on the weekend, because this weekend we spent about, would you say, 10, 12 hours driving?
Yes, around that.
9 to 5 one day, 8 hours one day, and 6 hours the other day, which meant we were hungry on the road. We could only seem to find ice cream and poutine. We're both lactose intolerant, so that was comical.
It was fun.
We're still together. We didn't break up after seeing the worst from each other. But that's that. And then the next day, we also drove around, because for our Bronco to have its full value for when we trade it for this Lightning getting built much faster than expected, we got put on November 26th and it went into production November 2nd. So that's news I wanted to share today. But as a November 2nd date for production, we had 6,000 kilometers to put on. And now quickly, we've done like 1,200 kilometers. We're at 10,200 kilometers, and we have to get to 15,000 kilometers. So we'll put that towards gas money. We definitely will not be buying ice cream again. We've promised each other. And let's not do the poutine either, because I have problems with dairy, and I also have problems with onion and garlic, and that would have been in the sauce. So shame on me. Andy Ackerman, again, thank you. Very, very kind of you. Let's try grad with 2 A's. So I missed out the joke on that one, but I'm sure it's pretty decent. Anyways, I'll have to figure it out. Marie will explain it to me. I'm not always the best. So thank you, Ridgeview, for keeping Ridgeview. You're helping us out following what's been going on the channel, what's going on in the live conversation. Near the end of the show, so much easier to follow the live conversation, which I always love doing on Tim Bart's show, Long MacArthur, and as well over on All Terrain Nation, David and Kelly. And of course, you all know I watch Tim over at Pickup Truck and SUV Talk. And if you look at the office, and maybe the camera isn't so good, but I've also have Overlanding for Fun behind me, and we're also pretty good friends with Dwayne over on his channel, Driven Wild Outdoors. Yes.
Yeah.
I was trying not to say his channel name prior to this. So yeah, Andy Ackerman saying 10 to 12 hours driving sounds like a day that ends in Y for me. It actually was pretty cool because I love driving around. Marie loves driving around, but I actually hit a wall where I just started to fall asleep. So thankfully Marie said, pull over. I'm driving.
I'm driving for the rest of the road, yeah.
Yeah, but it's also really helping us get to know more about the Bronco, so that, we did sort of a BS busters when a certain channel was saying that a stock Bronco, either a Badlands or a Sasquatch, basically they said the Raptor is great, but pretty much said that their Bronco Badlands was horrible. It's like, well, we drove to Florida. And yeah, we put what must have been $700 to $900 in fuel into the vehicle, but boy, did we ever get to experience it. But that was highway driving. So this weekend, 6 and 8 hours, so 14 hours. If my math isn't bad, hopefully that's grade 1 math, so hopefully I can handle it. But we did that time almost exclusively on back roads. We only did about an hour and a half of highway driving. So if anyone talks about, driving, it's not good back roads or it's not good on bumps, that there's a death wobble, we can just call BS, right?
We tried it a lot.
We were in the mountains, and you several times were like, don't go up you're actually I really appreciate how you never tell me don't go up that road. You're like, it's your Bronco, do what you want, but and you're smart. You tell me, Johnny, if you go up that road, you might not be able to turn around at the top. Are you comfortable backing down? And when there's about 2 inches of space on either side for branches, I'm like, honey, you're really smart. I'm really happy you're here with me. No, I will not be happy if I back down, because it'll either take me forever and I'll have no scratches. Knowing my patience level, I'll come down and the paint will be ruined.
Yeah. And at the same time, you said I never say no to you, but no, I say no to you sometimes, because you're like, is it a road that I could go off-roading? Is it another road that I could go off-roading? And I'm like, no, it's a private place, so don't go there. I'm always like that. No, it's private. Don't go there.
That's true. You do not enjoy it when I break the law, and generally I do not mean to break the law. I'm just a happy-go-lucky kind of guy until everything goes wrong, and then...
We didn't have that problem with the Mustang, so it's a Bronco thing.
Yeah, it's a Bronco thing, because the Mustang, you yourself choose basically anything that's kind of wildish. You're like, nope, no place for the Mustang, and that's why we're loving the Bronco. The Maverick, what's great is even though you're going to have a front-wheel drive, Ford has intelligent front-wheel drive, where they're not just sending... they play around with the power to work to keep you in a straight line. So that's why it was so good in the snowstorm. It was great in the snowstorm and towing. So I'm really looking forward to your Maverick. And this is big for me because previously I had a bit of an attitude towards, if it's 2x4 truck, well, it's not going to be very good. And if it's obviously back then all the 2x4s were rear wheel drive. And that meant that at least it'll be really fun to drift, but I can't pay too much money for it because I might scrap it. I might swing the back end into something. And, when we had the 2011 high mileage, almost 300,000 kilometers on our EcoBoost Gen 1, at first you just thought it would magically go into 4x4 mode, and you're like saying that you didn't really like it in snowstorms, and you thought it was the tires, and you didn't like it when the back end was swinging around. I'm like, that's its best point. It's a drift truck. And then I showed her how to put it in 4x4, because it's okay if not everyone loves drifting. I want to mention something. Ridgeview said, Johnny Marie and this chat community means a lot to me. He's retired and he looks forward to it each week. I know what you mean, my friend. I really know what you mean. I look forward to being in the chat on Tim's show, David's show, all the shows I mentioned. I'm not retired. I'm working a lot of hours, let's say, per week. Sometimes a little less than 70, sometimes over 70 hours. And I do always enjoy chatting with the community because we learn. And it's just nice catching up with everyone too.
Special thanks to Ridgeview tonight because he said at the beginning he was sick tonight, so that's why he came just after we start because he was feeling sick. So thank you so much to be there tonight, even if you're not feeling good.
Yes, thank you very much. And actually, people in the YouTube community that I follow of creators, we've got one in the group who is sick as well. He just had, the vid. We had it before. Just want to mention here, we've got a great question, and it's in regards to the Mustang in the rain. M. Peugeot, 37 weeks from retirement. You're going to have to send me photos from the places you will visit or stay, live. So here we go. I just want to read out. It's about, J-Rods. How good has the Mustang been in the rain? Well, funny you might ask. We had a horrible rainstorm yesterday. I had the Mustang sitting at work, and I was like,
to bring it back
I
home.
have to bring it back home. And Matthew was like, are you sure with this rain? I was like, don't worry about it.
Search it another day.
She also knows that I'm the type that'll start hydroplaning and then start worrying about it. I kind of worry about danger when danger is present. But no, the Mustang has been good. Also, rear-wheel drive, but intelligent rear-wheel drive. So I can tell you the Mustang will be fantastic in the rain as long as you have some tires left on it. If you've got no tire wear, that thing's going to go all over the place. The technology is going to work to keep you in a straight line. I've actually driven 3 full winters in Mustangs, and I had good experience with it. And actually, I was, Molten Hill. There's this hill that you go up and you go down many, many times, but generally you go up and down
and you
all
have
the way to the top.
so much deers in the road.
So many deers to dodge and so many deer in the road. But I did that in snowstorms. I did it in upwards of about yay of snow. So I believe that's about 3 inches. You'd laugh at me if I was like, I believe it was about 8 inches. But no, that is about 3 inches roughly. And it was good. It would start to slide and then it would bring itself back in a straight line. So very impressed with Ford's system. I don't know if Ford authorizes this kind of language, but the language I would use to describe it is, I have a strong feeling that there is some technology from both Volvo and Land Rover in the intelligent all-wheel drive system, in the intelligent front-wheel drive systems at Ford, as well as the intelligent propulsion or rear-wheel drive systems. Maybe it was 100% their own recipe, but they did used to own Volvo and Land Rover. They also owned Aston Martin, which I believe is probably where they got the torque vectoring. And they also owned Mazda and Jaguar. But, if I'm trying to say positive things, I shouldn't slide that one in. But the Jaguar, that was an experiment. And, well, I think they sold it for more than they bought it for. So let's say that was a success. So here, let's just say, let's say that's pretty much, unless we've got another question here. Marie, with your hands, can you show us what 8 inches Canadian looks like?
Depends on Johnny's inches or mine. So Johnny, 8 inches?
What?
Mine more about that.
No. He's asking in Canadian, how much is 8 inches?
Yeah, but what I said, it depends on which Canadian
inch.
you ask.
Oh, okay, because you're saying 1 inch is this.
No, you said 8 inches is this.
Oh, that was a joke.
Yeah.
No, it's...
depends on who you ask.
Yes. A good way to tell, I worked on farms, so it's always good to know how to measure things according to your body. And I generally learned that my 2 fingers are roughly 1 inch. And then there's all sorts of other little tricks, like you walk between your stride, how many feet is that? So you can count out a field just by walking it, so you know basically how much fencing you're going to need, whatever material you're using, how many posts you're going to need. So you measure things often
Roughly.
with your body, and actually a lot of traditional knowledge. My stepfather, which he's my dad. He lived up north. He lived in Greenland, and he also lived in Baffin Island, and he even visited Ellesmere Island near the north. But anyways, ended up by accident at a military base way up north. But anywho, he lived up there, and he was always saying they measure 100% of everything that they would measure back then. This was in the 60s. They would really measure, with their hand, fingers to elbow, knee to foot. Everything was measured out that way and created that way. So I think that's it for the show tonight. I think we've covered all questions. If there's an emergency question, put it in now. You've got about 5 seconds. If not, let's just save it for the next show. You can throw it in the comments section, and I'll try to, take a screenshot and bring it into this show. Talk about it if it's a topic that's really important to cover. So thank you everyone for being here. Love the lives because we've got the community where we all join in here. Thank you for everyone's help. In the meantime, obviously, I wish you all more cars and more power. So if that comes to you, share it with our Facebook, Johnny's Car Care and Reviews. Share it with our Instagram. And you can also send us an email at Johnny's Car Care and Reviews @gmail.com. That's Johnny with 1 N. I'll do my best to get to every email, just like I try to get to every comment. But sometimes we make a video, and if there's 100 or 180 comments, it's awfully hard to get to all of them. So the dogs are now starting to fight. That's our cue. Have a great week, everyone. Marie, I'll let you grab the camera.
Bye, guys.
So take care, everyone. And yes, it is a great chat. Like I said, just throw in your questions in the comments section. Take care. Hey, Winston.